Alright, James, so you got some additional flight logs on your Acrobrat after our last log review, so let's check it out. Okay, so since the last video, for some tips and hints, you did two flights. You did the one on the left here, which is just bone stock 3.5.5 defaults, and the one on the right, which had some minor changes to it. So I found something really interesting about this because I get this question a lot. People say, do I adjust my filters first or my PIDs? Like which one? And I always say the filters. So check this out. This is why. So you can see the PIDs are the same between both logs. The only difference in the last video, I talked about adjusting your filter settings. Now in 3.5, we were still the static low-pass filters. No problem. Talked about turning off low pass 2 on the gyro and on the Dterm, so you can see that here on the revised log. Low pass 2 is off on both, and we talked about moving low pass 1 way up because you had a pretty clean quad. So from a plasma tree perspective, this is with the old filter settings and this is the new filter settings. So you can see, the gyro is a little cleaner here on the old filter settings, and we're letting a little bit more noise through on the new, but not really that much more. It's really very minor, and you can have a gyro that's too clean. I wouldn't say it's too clean. It's just you're over filtering it and you have too much phase delay, and that phase delay causes problems. Totally clean would be perfect, but we can't have a ton of phase delay at the same time. So this is the log with the default filtering. And as you can see, one of the things I was seeing in here right away is you have a ton of overshoot. Essentially, it's acting like that you have too much P-term. You could see that when you were hitting full throttle, you were getting oscillations back and forth here on your gyro, so it was, again, acting like there's too much P-term, and that is throughout the flight. Everywhere you can kind of see that, it's just overshooting all over the place. If you look at the plasma tree plots, you can see that overshooting down here as well, and the ringing that you're getting on both axes, the roll more than the pitch, but nevertheless it's in both. So now let's look at the adjusted log. So this really, all the settings are the same except for low pass 2 is turned off on the gyro and the Dterm. And you can see when we're hitting these high throttle values right here, this RC throttle, we're not getting that reaction. The blue line here needs to be following the magenta or green there. And there's some vibrations in there, but not nearly like it was before, and we'll talk about here in a second. So it's tracking the set point much better. You have some, there's some spots where it's off, where it's dealing with prop wash and stuff, but nothing really out of the ordinary. There is a couple things that I would adjust. So the one main thing here is iTerm relax, to make sure that that's turned on. I'm not sure in your flight if that's turned on or not because that's not in the header file, but let's just take a look at that. And the default setting I really don't think is the best for freestyle. I think it's a little bit better for racers. So I'm going into the PIDs tab here. I don't see iTerm rotation. iTerm relax, you definitely want to check that on and make that sure that's turned on. You want roll and pitch there, and if this is set to set point, go ahead and change that to gyro. And then we want to save that. After that, we want to go into the CLI, type get iTerm, or get relax, sorry. And then the cutoff right here, this iTerm relax cutoff, make sure that that is set to 11. It does look like, to me, that in 3.5.5, with iTerm relax turned on, it is set to gyro and the cutoff at 11, which is definitely what we want. So I'm going to go with the assumption that you didn't have that turned on. Go ahead and turn that on. You can see right here the reason we want to turn this on is because the iTerm, you can see it right here, is going below and it's dragging your quad to overshoot. It's really the iTerm. You're getting iTerm wind up right here where the gyro is not exactly following the set point, and that's, again, accumulating and dragging it. It's called iTerm clamping in PID control theory. So what iTerm clamping is, or iTerm relax, that's what Betaflight calls it, is basically says, hey, we were recognizing during this sharp, fast move here and same thing for like a valve or something of that nature, that we're not going to be able to track the set point because of inertia and other mechanical system just limitations, just physics. It's not going to be able to follow it. So don't accumulate I-term, don't wind up. Just shut down, just chill out for a second, just relax. And after the move, then you can turn back on. That's what that will do. That will stop that from accumulating, and then it will stop the I-term from dragging your quad to bounce back. Honestly, ever since I-term relax was introduced in Betaflight 3.4, bounce back, nobody really should have bounce back if they're using I-term relax with gyro as the mode and the set point being 11. If you have bounce back after, with having I-term relax turned on and gyro set point, then it's really just you need more Dterm. Just add more Dterm. In this scenario, you would have to add so much Dterm to overcome that I-term that it would really be difficult to overcome that, and then you'd get other issues. You'd get Dterm ringing and things of that nature. So definitely crank on I-term relax. The other thing I did notice that you could give a shot is it does look like the motors might be over propped a little bit, and I think those are the default props that come with the Acrobrat kind of a thing. They're pretty steep pitch from what I saw in there. But the reason I'm bringing this up is when you see a plasma tree graph that looks like this, where the motor's winding up and then they kind of top out and just flatline, you can basically see from about, I don't know, 60–70% your RPMs just flatline and come out. So that's telling me you've hit the max that motor can push, and that's kind of a sign of overpropping. It's not necessarily a problem. That does indicate, though, that for prop wash handling, maybe a lighter prop might do a little bit better for you. Obviously, though, or a less pitch. Obviously, though, the downside is going to have less bite, less oomph for a full throttle. So it depends on really what you value. If you like the feel of those props, then just stick with it. It's fine. It's not going to break anything. But if you're looking to address prop wash a little bit better, maybe a lighter pitched prop or just a lighter prop in general, what might do you a little bit better there. There's a couple instances here where your vibrations get up into the 700 Hertz range, and you can see that just by running a spectrum on PID error or the gyro, whichever, and you can kind of amplify this, right? And you can see this noise up here. So what will help with that is when you do get up onto Betaflight 4.0 stable. In 3.5, the dynamic notch really had a range that could only really get up to around 600 Hertz. Let's see if that's pretty accurate here. Yeah, 530, 600 at the most, and then anywhere above that it just couldn't get up any higher. Where in Betaflight 4.0 you would want to set your dynamic notch range to high, and then that will allow it to operate up to 1000 Hertz, which will tamp down this noise a little bit better. That will kill out some of this stuff you'll see in the log here, where the Dterm, see how it's real spiky, like these high frequency spikes? That will help get that squared away. I don't know that it's going to make a huge difference in flight characteristics. It should help a little bit with prop wash, because there is instances where you're in combating prop wash. Let's just look here, for example. And that high frequency stuff is leaking in. See that right here? And that's causing the Dterm to not provide as effective response as it could, because it's, in this scenario the Dterm saying no, push up, don't let the gyro go down past the set point, but it's not just this nice solid response saying push up, so the gyro doesn't go down past the set point. It's kind of push up, nope, not as much, yeah, a little bit more, nope, go back down, and you can see that vibration here. It's like yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and that's the kind of inconsistency that noise introduces into the Dterm that hurts you with prop wash. And you can see some of that overshoot up here as well. One thing on the overshoot, do try the I-term relax. Turn that on first, because you can see that here, the I-term. That's not helping you for this little bit of overshoot. That's that's contributing to it as well. So it's not just the P-term, I-term mix. So before you start adjusting the P-term down or anything like that, turn on I-term relax. Take a look at the log, see if you see any overshoots anymore. Take a look at the plasma tree, see if that settled out those overshoots as well. Okay, well that was it. I hope you found that helpful. I did again find that so interesting that just by turning off the low pass 2 filters, you went from this in a PID response when you hit the throttle to this. See how much smoother and rock solid that is versus this oscillations you were getting before. So underlines the point of filters first, get filters right, make sure they're not too much, not too little, and then work on your PIDs. Turn on your iTerm relax. That should, I bet you, address almost, if not all, the rest of the issues you're having. And then from there, if you want to try to address prop wash a little bit better, think about maybe some props that aren't as steep in pitch or a little lighter. Or you could take your, once your P&D term, once you're not having overshoot, once the iTerm relax on, and you know, when you're doing sharp flips and rolls, again, you're not getting overshoot. You can raise both P and D together at the same time and keep pushing that up and up and up to combat prop wash, because that will fight back and push harder against prop wash. Again, D, you might need to click up a couple extra points versus P just to make sure it doesn't overshoot as you're moving those two things up at the same time. But generally, the ratio between the two, once you find that happy medium, you just push both up at the same time to address prop wash. You will get to a spot where you can't just keep lifting it forever, right? Because the D term, the gains magnify the noise, and you still have noise coming through your gyro. It's well attenuated for the gains that you have in here, which was the high 25s for the D term. You could probably take those up into the 30s, so you'd move P up with it at the same time. But you keep track of your Ds. You could probably slide those up into the 30s, maybe into even the 40s. You'd really have to play with it. You will get to a spot though that you'll keep moving them up, or you know, that it will start amplifying the noise a lot more and more and more, and you won't notice any gains, and that's because you've really hit the mechanical limit of your motors with the torque and how fast they can keep up. At that point, you need higher torque motors or lighter props or less pitch on the props. So you do hit these mechanical limitations on the quad. So again, hopefully you found that helpful. Thanks for the Patreon support as always, and I'll see you around.